Guys, we are now at 500 plus subscribers. I am super happy, I am excited, and I am grateful for every single one of my subscribers. Thank you guys so much for subscribing to this channel. If you're watching this video and you're not yet subscribed, please hit on the subscribe button now. Okay, thank you. So I have something for you guys in today's video, so keep watching and let's get started. So these are the materials I'll be needing: about half yard of this Ankara fabric, my scissors, this boning. You can make use of a Reginine boning, this is plastic boning, and also my lining. So the first thing I'm going to do is to draft out this on a pattern paper. So now this pattern paper is on fold at the center like so. So I'm going to draft out my basic bodice now. Now I'm going to mark the upper bust, that's the bust line, which is 10, the under bust, which is 13, and also the waistline, which is 16. So I'm going to repeat this at another point so I can get a straight horizontal line. So I'm just going to be joining these lines like so with this point with my ruler. So now I'll just go ahead to label the points I've made. Now the next thing I'm going to do is to take my shoulder measurement. The shoulder is 14 divided by 2, that is 7. And I'm going to come down by half of an inch for the shoulder slope, and I'll mark it into the neckline. We don't really need this, but it's just a guide. So now the next thing I'm going to do is come to the bust line and take my shoulder measurement here, 7. And from there I'm going to come up by 2 inches. This is for my armhole, and I'll connect the 2 points like so. Like I said, we don't really need this part, so it's just a guide. So I'll just extend this line like so, and I'm going to curve out my armhole with my curve rule. Now the next I'm going to mark is my nipple to nipple measurement. I'm going to mark this on the bust line, the under bust, and the waistline. The nipple to nipple measurement is 7 divided by 2, that is 3.5. I'm just going to be joining this point in a straight line like so. The next now I'll measure my bust to my under bust. This is 3, and I'll come to the nipple to nipple measurement and mark to my left 3 inches. I'll also come to the right and mark 3 inches. So this basically means whatever you have from your bust to your under bust, that's what you are going to be marking to the left and to the right. So now the next thing, I'll come down by 1 inch from my bust line, and I'll come to the waist and mark half of an inch to the left and the right of the nipple to nipple line. So this is for my dart. I'll just connect this point like so with my ruler. So now the next thing I'm going to be doing is to connect these 2 points like so with my curve rule. This is because we are trying to get half of a circle, not a full circle. So I'm just going to use my curve rule to connect the dart from my under bust to that point I made earlier on the bust line. I'll do the same thing to the other side. So now it is time to take the body measurement. I'm going to take my bust measurement. The bust is 34 divided by 4, that is 8.5. And I'm going to be adding 1.5 inch for seam allowance. I'll come to the waist also and mark 7. The waist is 28. The waist is 28 divided by 4, that is 7. And I'll be adding back the dart I took earlier, which is 1 inch. And I'll also add 1.5 for sewing allowance. So I'm just going to be connecting these 2 points like so. So now we are done with the front pattern. I'm just going to cut it out carefully like so. Please watch how I'm cutting this, as I'm going to be cutting out the darts. We don't need the darts. So guys, this is the center front and the side front. I'm going to be using this to cut out the back pattern also. Remember, we cut the center on fold, so I'm just going to be removing a piece of this. I just need a piece of this to cut out the back. So now for the back, I'm gonna head to fold the remainder of my pattern paper like so. I'll be placing the I'll first be measuring 1.5 inch from the center of this pattern paper. This 1.5 inch is for zipper allowance, so I'll just measure 1.5 inch and connect the dots like so. Now the next thing I'm going to do is to place this center front on that zipper part, and I'm going to pin this down. I'll place the other side of my front on this, and before I place this, I'm going to leave that 1 inch we removed from the front. I'm going to be placing this, I'm going to make sure this 1 inch is also placed here on the back before I cut out this back pattern. So I'm just going to pin down these patterns on the pattern paper like so. The next thing I'm going to do is to roll out this waistline like so. I'll also rule out the side and also the top of this pattern. Now I'm going to be removing my pattern paper and adjusting this back. So now the first thing I'm going to do is to join this part together like so. This is the back, so the back is just going to be straight like this, a bit slant here. Then I'll measure what I have for from this my dart. I have 1 inch, so I'll just measure the center, which is ½ inch. I'm going to be drawing a straight line first. Don't forget, this is our dart. Then I'll be connecting the sides also like so. So now we are also done with the back pattern. I'm just going to be cutting this out, and I'm going to go ahead to label all my patterns. So now this is the center front and also the side front. Then this is the back, center back, and also side back. Now I would also go ahead to label this my zipper part of the center back, so as to know. So now guys, I'm not going to be making use of a zipper, I'm going to be making use of a loop instead. So I'm just going to be removing this zipper pattern, this one that has the zipper pattern, the center back. I'm going to be removing this as I don't need it. So now the next thing I'm going to do is to place my patterns on my fabric, and I'm going to cut out my patterns. So now guys, when cutting out, I'm going to be leaving ½ inch round my pattern paper, especially the centers, because of joining. The only place I'll be adding an allowance is the side of this side front. Remember, we added 1.5 inch on the front pattern as seam allowance, so I'm just going to be cutting out these patterns like so. So guys, this is what the patterns look like. I've gone ahead to iron a gum stay to it. I've also done the same thing to the back. I notched this loop part so I can know that is my loop part. I also went ahead to cut out my lining for these patterns, and I've added gum stays to them also. So now the next I'm going to do is to join the sides of this my front pattern to the center front. So I'm just going to use my pins to hold down this the middle like so, and I'm going to take this to the machine and sew it down by ½ inch. Remember, that was what we left as the seam allowance when cutting. So guys, this is what they look like. I've gone ahead to join the 3 pieces together. Now I would also join the back piece. Don't forget, if you want to be able to identify this very well, that loop part is the part where the zipper is, and I went ahead to notch that. So I'll join the sides like so. I'm going to be joining this down by ½ inch also. So guys, this is what they look like. I've joined the front pieces to the back pieces. I've also done the same thing to the lining. and this is what the lining looks like. So I'm just going to place the lining aside for later use, and I'm going to be working first on the front pattern. Now this front pattern, I'll come to the middle and measure what I have there. I'm going to be dividing this by 2, and I'm going to be marking it because I need the center of this front. So once I mark this down, I'm going to be drawing a straight line like so. Like I said, I want to get the center of this. So now the next thing I'm going to do is to place my bias strips. I'm going to be placing my bias strip on this center like so, and I'll go ahead to pin this down. I'll also be placing my bias strip on the joinings at the front and also at the sides. That is the back of this my piece. So now from this back, the center of this back, I'm going to come in by 1 inch, and I'm going to be drawing a straight line like so. And I'm also going to be placing a bias strip on this part. I'll do the same thing to the other side. So guys, next thing I'm going to do is to take this to the machine and sew down the sides of this my bias. So guys, this is what they look like. I've gone ahead to sew the sides. You can see you want to sew neatly at the extreme ends of the sides of this bias so that your boning can pass through. So now guys, it is time to place my boning. Before I cut out the boning I'm going to be needing, I'm not going to be cutting out the full length for this bias. I'm just going to be leaving half of an inch so that I can sew round this fabric. You don't want to cut the exact length of your bias as your boning. So now guys, this is it. I'm just going to be smoothing the edge of this boning so it doesn't injure when you wear it. So I'm just going to go ahead to smoothing this like so, and I'm going to be placing it carefully inside my boning casing. So guys, I'm going to do the same thing for all the bias strips I have on my fabric here, and I'll show you what it looks like when I'm done. So guys, regarding what I said I have for you all at the beginning of this video, so I'll be needing you guys to drop the styles of what you want me to make a tutorial on. I'll be needing you guys to drop this at the comment section, and I'm going to see about them. Thank you guys so much for subscribing once again. So guys, I am done with placing my bonings. The next thing I'm going to do is to place my lining on my main fabric. I'm going to be placing my lining on my main fabric, right side facing right side, and I'm going to be sewing round the edge of this my bra casings like so. I'm going to be sewing closely to the edges. So I'll show you what it looks like when I'm done. So guys, this is what it looks like right now. I'm just going to go around to notch the edges like so, so that this can relax very well when I turn them. So now I'm done notching. I'm just going to go around to, I'm going to turn this in, and I'm going to iron this so it can lay flat. So now guys, before ironing to the bra casings, I call this the bra casings, what I'm going to do is to also cut a plastic boning for these 2 bra casings I have at the front of this. So I'm going to cut out the size of this my bra casings, and just like I did earlier with the bonings I placed earlier, I'm going to be removing an inch away from this boning so that I can sew well on this. So I'm just going to be cutting this out, and I'm going to be cutting two of these because I need for the other side also. So now I'll just go ahead to place this boning inside the bra casings like so. So guys, you want to be really careful and thorough with this. I'm going to place this very closely to this my bra casing, and I'm going to take this to the machine and sew around this like so. So guys, when sewing, you want to sew very closely to the boning you have there. This is not going to be very easy, but you just have to do this so it can come out looking very fine. So guys, this is what they look like. I've gone ahead to do the same thing to the other side. You can see that this belt is already looking very structured. This is what bonings will do to your fabric. Yeah, so now the next thing I'm going to do is to turn this to the other. So I'm going to be joining both ends together like so by half of an inch. So note that I didn't sew the sides of where my loop is going to be. So now guys, I'm just going to be turning this inside out. This is another not so easy task if you are going to be making this. So now guys, I'm just going to carefully turn this inside out, and I'll show you what it looks like when I'm done. So guys, this is it. I've gone ahead to arrange my bonings also, and for the edges of this loop, I just went in, I ironed down the edges just by half of an inch on both sides. I did the same thing to the other side, so I just ironed this down. I didn't sew it. So now guys, the next thing I did was to cut out these pieces of fabric. This is about 2.5 inches in length, and the wideness is just about 1 inch. So I just went ahead to fold the both ends of this like so, and I went ahead to fold it once more. So I went ahead to cut out 8 pieces of this. This is going to be, these are my loops, and for the belt itself, I went ahead to cut 2 inches in wideness of this, 2 inches in width, and I just folded the ends also, and I'm going to be sewing this down like this as I'm showing you. And for the length, I went out to cut about 45 inches in length. You can go ahead to cut out any desired length. So this is how I'm going to be sewing down these belts. I'm just going to be folding in the ends like so, and I'm going to be sewing it down with my machine. So now the next thing I'm going to be doing is to be placing these loops at the back. So now I'll just show you how I'm going to be placing these loops. Let me take one as an example. So for this, I'm just going to be folding this like so. I'm going to be bending one end of this, and I'm going to be placing this at my loop allowance like so, and I'm going to be sewing this down. But first, I'm going to go ahead to place all the loops like so. So now, to get a good spacing for your loops, I'm going to measure what I have here and measure the middle. So I had 6, and I have 4 loops to place, so I just went ahead to measure 1.5 all through my loop allowances. So I'm going to do the same thing to the other side, 1.5 and difference, 1.5 in spacing. So you can go ahead to use whatever you like. You can go ahead to use 4 loops, 5 loops, or 3 loops, so depending on how you want it. So I'm just going to go ahead to position my loops on my loop allowance like so, and I'm going to take this to the sewing machine and sew this down. So guys, I've gone ahead to sew my loops down. This is what they look like, and I'm just going to go ahead to fix my belt like so. So when I'm done with this, I'm going to show you guys what it looks like. We've come to the end of our tutorial. Please don't forget to give this video a big fat thick thumbs up, and also subscribe if you haven't. I'm going to see you all in my next video. Bye.